Yeah, so one of the big hot topics over the last decade has to be cryptocurrency. And I mean, there are so many platforms, so many forums talking about it. And, just when you thought maybe I'm not going to get involved there, maybe it's almost over, something new happens, something comes up in the news and you think, oh my goodness, now I have to go and have another look and maybe I should get into it or maybe I shouldn't get into it. You could never really make up your mind. And, there's only one person I can think of to chat to. And full disclosure up front, I do have some investments with Revix. So just that we get that out of the way. And I think it's good to practice to do that. But joining me on the line right now is Sean Sanders. He's the CEO of Revix. Sean, good to have you on the show.
Hey, Alex. Yeah, thanks very much for having me on here.
Well, Sean, as I said in the intro, there's been so much talk about cryptocurrency over the last 10 years, maybe even more so over the last 5 years. But this past week, good old Elon Musk managed to just completely get everyone onto the bandwagon again with his purchase of $1.5 billion of Bitcoin. What's your take on this?
It is the biggest news in crypto since crypto started. I think having a blue chip corporate such as Tesla, the irony, by the way, just with all of this is that now Bitcoin is more valuable than Tesla as an asset. I mean, how weird is that? But yeah, $1.5 billion has been allocated or has been purchased now in Bitcoin. So what Tesla's decision essentially was, should we rather own US dollars or should we own Bitcoin? Their decision was to say, right, no, let's own Bitcoin. And this purchase is huge, and it follows in the footsteps of, you've had MicroStrategy. They purchased $1.15 billion worth of Bitcoin. That's a NASDAQ listed company a few months ago. You've had JP Morgan get into the space. Facebook's been talking about, it was Libra before, it's renamed to Diem. You've had PayPal get into the space, BlackRock, Fidelity. So there's a lot of big names entering the space. And I mean, a lot of people haven't been speaking about this, but also think this is pretty big news, is to have the endowment funds from Harvard, from Yale, and from Brown. I mean, those are the three biggest endowment funds in the entire world, coming out to say that they're going to be allocating some of the endowment funds from the alternative asset portion to cryptocurrencies. I mean, this is huge news. So yeah, I guess this opens up the gates now for other institutions to sort of enter the space. And I think now it's, who knows where this goes, right? It's getting real and it's getting big.
Sean, would it be fair to say that this was maybe somewhat unexpected? I mean, we had big plans for Facebook to go into cryptocurrency last year, which didn't really kind of happen or didn't really have the effect that I think a lot of people were expecting. But this Elon Musk story just takes the whole thing to a whole new level.
It is something that you could not predict. I mean, maybe Elon Musk entering the space, that's, I guess, something that, he is a little out there as a CEO, so he would sort of, lead the pack, if you want to call it that. But if you went back to this and you said to me, listen, you're going to have some of the biggest names in finance, such as BlackRock, such as PayPal, such as Fidelity, JP Morgan, entering the space and acquiring Bitcoin for their own book, I would say you're nuts. I would say that's a 5-year, 10-year story. And now today, that's what's happening, right? You've got corporates buying into the space. And I think personally, if you have to fast forward, never mind 5 years, just looking 1 or 2 years out, just the same way as you have central banks now buying gold, you'll have them buying Bitcoin. And I think that's really the big opportunity here. You see Bitcoin today is about $830 billion in value. The entire cryptocurrency asset class is about $1.35 trillion. I mean, if you're comparing that to gold and just gold alone, I mean, gold's between 10 to $11 trillion in value. So can this market increase 5, 10, 15x? Yeah, it can. And that's really the big opportunity here. I mean, that's not to say as well that this market couldn't pull back. Of course, there is the risk that, things change. There is something that's very well known with crypto, and that's a really volatile asset class. So we must be aware of that. But at the same time, I think not having an allocation to this asset class would be a bit silly. Certainly, if you've got an investment portfolio, you should be treating crypto just like you treat stocks or bonds or property or anything else.
Well, I mean, I think you've touched on it. I mean, a lot of people feel like crypto is the sort of, short-lived exercise, maybe making a quick buck. I mean, there's been a lot of local stories as well of people who've lost money investing through some sort of, overnight business that promise them returns of extraordinary amounts. You, however, have sort of pegged your livelihood into this space, and be quite fascinated to get into your head in terms of what gives you the confidence and the, what kind of outlook do you have into cryptocurrency? I mean, you wouldn't be putting your whole life into this if you don't see something of long-term value.
Yeah, I think the future is going to be weird. I think we need to acknowledge that. You've got a generation that is digital first. I mean, I've spoken about this before on other podcasts, but at the moment, money's dumb, right? So if you're looking at, a government tender as an example, you have money given to some sort of corporation or company or individual. That person then goes out and spends it, right? You don't know where that money goes. Then there's investigations. It's an incredibly inefficient system. Now, money come 2030 is going to probably be slightly smarter, right? So you'll know exactly where that money's gone. So if you issue a tender, you can say, listen, this money can only be spent for XYZ purposes. And that is then the evolution of money. That's smart money. That's what central bank digital currencies could potentially offer. If you think about social grants in South Africa, right? You've got the ability to issue social grants, which we do a lot of in South Africa. And you could say, well, listen, this money can only be spent at supported outlets, or it could only be spent in certain ways, therefore reducing, alcohol consumption and a whole bunch of other, pressing issues. So money becomes smarter. And I think we're looking out into the future. Yeah, maybe Bitcoin competes with gold as sort of this new digital asset and a new digital store of value. You have other fiat currencies, other cryptocurrencies that are looking to do something very different, right? The likes of Ethereum, the likes of Cardano, they're looking to sort of create decentralized networks, which disintermediates a lot of financial players. And not just financial players, sort of any network or any system that has financial intermediaries in general, so supply chains, et cetera, et cetera. So the world is going more tokenized, right? I think come the end of my life, it'll be very surprising if you don't see land registries, vehicle records, all these sort of things where we're trusting a party with our data if they're not put on blockchains. And I think that's where, tokenization and real world. And this has just started now, which is so exciting.
Well, Sean, I mean, it'd be interesting to get your outlook on 2021. I mean, apart from sort of predicting Elon Musk, what are your other outlooks on cryptocurrency for the rest of the year? I mean, you already mentioned Bitcoin, is a bit of a poster child for cryptocurrency. There's a gazillion other ones, in the game as well. I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
So you've opened the floodgates now, right? With Elon Musk entering the space. I mean, who knows? Microsoft starts to accept Bitcoin as a means of payment. All of a sudden, the market runs a bit more. There's this other big opportunity, which has been sitting here for the last 3 years, about a Bitcoin ETF. I mean, if you saw a Bitcoin ETF this could, see another $2-3 trillion just enter the space of retail money. It creates further validation. I mean, the other thing is, remember, this is an unregulated asset class in about 80% of the countries in this world. Now, that is insane. You've got this asset class, which has grown about 3.5 times in value. I mean, it's grown over the last year about $1 trillion, which is about 3.5 times South Africa's GDP. 2.5 times South Africa's GDP. I mean, that's the amount that this digital currency asset class has grown. Now, for regulators not to regulate this, and is actually something of value. Let's put the right sort of regulatory structures in place so that these companies can grow and they can actually serve consumers with confidence and all the rest would be absolutely insane. And that as soon as they go and regulate cryptocurrencies, then it provides further validation to the space and it sort of just fuels this growth. So, it's hard to sort of estimate prices. It's like throwing the dartboard. You never know. Do I believe that you will see a Bitcoin that'll be post R1 million? Yes, I truly do. Does it mean that we can, or do I believe that we could see a significant pullback and then the asset class grows? Yes. I mean, you've got a lot of buying pressure on the sidelines. So a lot of people wanting to enter this asset class. You've got a lot of corporates now looking to get in. I think ultimately at the end of the day, crypto is just a game of demand and supply. As long as demand is outstripping supply, prices will go up. And there is a sentiment element to this as well. You're in the perfect storm, right? You're sitting with a pandemic. You're sitting with monetary stimulus like we've never seen before. The money printers around the world are just on 24/7, 365, just printing new money. There is no better narrative that I could possibly have put together for why you'd want to invest in crypto or why cryptocurrencies could flourish. So I'm bullish. Obviously, I've bet my life savings and everything else I have on this. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm also diversified. Our entire business model is premised on the idea that you should own a diversified portfolio, not just in crypto, in all these different asset classes as well. And even within the crypto asset class, I mean, what Revix does is we allow you to buy a bundle of cryptocurrencies. So this is very different to going to an exchange and just buying Bitcoin or Litecoin. I mean, you wouldn't go to a stock market and go, okay, great, I want just Woolworths or just Naspers or just a single stock. You would buy a diversified portfolio of stocks. And that's exactly what we offer with Revix, which in my opinion is sort of the more responsible invest in this asset class, which is really volatile, right?
Well, I mean, outside of Bitcoin, what other currencies are you currently watching on the crypto space that look like, exciting prospects, either within the bundles or even as individual currencies?
Yeah, so you've seen Ethereum. I mean, a lot of people talk about Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is the poster child, as you mentioned. You've seen Ethereum blow up over the last year. I think it's up about 720%. Chainlink, which is another top 10 cryptocurrency, it's within our top 10 bundle, it's up about 700% as well. Cardano is up about 540%. Polkadot is up 430%. And some of these are cryptocurrencies that weren't a year ago, and some weren't even in existence a year ago. And I think this is one of the beauties of the crypto space, is that it's dynamic and it's really fast moving. So, the reason that you should be looking, in my opinion, beyond just Bitcoin is that there is other exciting stuff happening out there. I'm sure you've heard of the decentralized finance movement that is starting to brew. And if you haven't heard of decentralized finance, I think just pay attention to the news and all the rest that's going to emerge over the next while, because this is a really big, and it's a potentially completely society change development that's taking place in the crypto space. And what it is really is essentially protocols or cryptocurrency projects that are looking to disintermediate, in particular, financial intermediaries. So if you think about it, you give money to a bank, that bank is in charge of then taking that money and lending it out to other people, and they act as that intermediary. Now, if you can remove that bank and have some sort of a protocol or some sort of a rule set that says, okay, well, you lend money here, we'll lend it out here, and you'll earn the yield. All of a sudden, the lender gets a better deal, the saver gets a better deal, and all of a sudden you've got, a new market created. You've got, a whole bunch of interesting projects in the DeFi space, and they're all being built on top of Ethereum. I mean, about 98% of the projects in the DeFi space are built on top of Ethereum. And that's why you've seen the Ethereum network grow the way that it has. I mean, every single cryptocurrency I just mentioned, Chainlink, Polkadot, I mean, those are DeFi-oriented cryptocurrencies. Looking at the likes of Cardano, I mean, the entire premise around Cardano's sort of growth over the last while is that you've got Ethereum that's going to be coming into a bottleneck sort of position, where it's got too much network congestion. So maybe there's something else that's going to take its space and take the new crown, and that's where Cardano is coming in. So there's a lot of stuff going on outside in the crypto space, but those are some of the most interesting.
I mean, for those people who are in the game already, I mean, they kind of know what they're in for. I mean, say if you hedge your bets on one currency, you're in for a bit of a roller coaster like you would with quite a few shares. And if you decide to go the diversified bundle route, well, you kind of take your averages and hope for the best. But what's your take on people wanting to get into the market fresh? I mean, like I said, there's been horror stories out there. I mean, people who've lost an absolute fortune either trying it themselves or getting into some sort of dicey scheme that ends up going south and somebody ends up disappearing into the ether. What's sort of the safest way of getting into the market?
Yeah, so firstly, this is not financial advice. It's just my opinion on how you should go about getting exposure to the space. Firstly, I would start small. Do not rush out. I mean, there's this FOMO mentality at the moment of, prices have blown up. I'm missing out. Let me run in and put a lot of money down. No, take a measured and calculated approach. Go and put in, I mean, with Revix, you can invest 500 Rand, sign up. There's no monthly fees. Sign up, put 500 Rand into an investment, put it into Bitcoin, put it into Ethereum, buy one of our bundles. Get comfortable with the volatility in the space. I think that's really important because the space is really volatile. It's not for everyone. And then I guess another piece of advice is don't trade. And again, personal advice, but the moment you start trying to trading crypto, you're going to be glued to your phone. You're probably 9 times out of 10 going to overtrade, and you're going to make companies like Revix and other brokerage platforms loads of money, which is great. But I don't think it's in your best interest. I think that for most people, it should be a case of saying, well, look at the long-term investment opportunity. Remember, if you see this asset class going from 1.4 trillion today to 10 trillion, you're looking at a 9.8x return, which is a really big return. That's the sort of return you should be going for. If you're looking to make a quick 20% or 30% or 40%, go to the casino, put down a bit of money on black. And like, that's my belief with that. If you're looking at a longer term investment opportunity, that's where I think crypto can really be a good addition to your portfolio. So that's my approach to sort of getting started in this market.
Well, that sounds like some really wise advice. I think that's also the case, I suppose, with most investments. It's time in the market versus timing the market, which I think a lot of people try and do. And unfortunately, like you said, they buy in as things are going up, not when things are on sale. So I think that's some good advice. Sean, I really look forward to catching up with you again. I think we've got quite a bit to chat about this year. And I think, if we check in on a monthly basis or even a quarterly basis, I think that'd be quite healthy. But that's Sean Sanders. He's the CEO of Revix. And thank you so much for joining us for this chat.
No, thank you very much for having me. I wish everyone here happy crypto investing.